All right. Thank you for being here both in person and online. Tonight's talk, muscle testing at home. It'll be a fun one. We're going to do some interactive if anybody wants to play. With that being said, I always want to say thank you for being here. Come with an open heart and an open mind. And I say this because my goal, and I know I reiterate this every time, but I still have the same goal, is for you to be able to change your lives and those around you. For you to be the light to uplift others, learn new things, and actually help other people have a better life. That's why we do these talks, is to help empower our community. And our community can be anywhere in the world. I love Colorado, so I am here. But anybody that can communicate with us via internet, via phone, that's part of our community. So I want to thank you guys for all being here. First off, we're going to start with, has anybody experienced
Except Pittsburgh.
except Pittsburgh, I guess. That's what Joseph said to give Riley a little rap. So just that's all it is. So with that being said, has anybody experienced muscle testing before? I know online you guys can't say much. So we have 3. Excellent. And what kind of experience did we have with muscle testing? Any ideas?
I trusted the person that was doing it for me, but when she tried to teach me,
So you trusted the person, but when she tried to help you, it didn't go well?
well, helping me worked, but me learning how to muscle test myself, I didn't.
It didn't work so well? Okay.
Right.
I know from you, you've used it for food sensitivities.
I learned that there through Reiki, but I've done muscle testing on myself for years.
Excellent. Muscle testing for self for years. Any other things from you, nice young lady, that you want to add in?
Yeah, I had a chiropractor do it, and then I went to another chiropractor in Wyoming one time. That he went, okay.
Okay. So yeah. So the speed at which we do testing. So my takeaway from here is for you guys to understand when to use it, when not to use it, when it's valid, when it's not valid, how to know if it's actually going to work or if it's not going to work, and the gold standard of muscle testing, and then what you can do, but it's not as reliable. Simple answer is, if you're testing yourself, it's not as reliable. If you want the gold standard, you actually use somebody else as the surrogate for the muscle testing. That's when you're going to get your best results. And for the best results, they don't even know what you're asking. So you don't even want to say it out loud. So they're not even aware of what's going on. Why I'm telling you all this is because emotional state can affect the muscle test. And the surrogate, the goal is them to have nothing in conjunction to it, not know what you're saying, not know what you're testing. So they're just there as a surrogate, there to be used as the strength, and then you can get good, reliable data. If you want to learn more about muscle testing, there is a book, and it's about the muscle testing, how it works, and it's called Power versus Force. It talks about the reliability, how to use it, how it works, and so forth. I will let you know if you have a surrogate, the surrogate's cleared and everything is working correctly, the reliability on present and past data is 95%. Did you hear what I said? Present and past. Does that mean you can ask the future? No. Does that mean I don't try? Yes. But if it's in the past, you can get really accurate data. Really, really accurate. If it is a present day thing that you're choosing at that instant, really, really good data. If it's tomorrow, you're not going to get good results. So that's why if you've run into issues, it could be that either the person you're testing is not cleared, and we'll talk about that. There could be emotional connections or flaws going on. You got to test all this stuff to make sure it's clear and clean before you're actually testing it, because quite often what I'll find with patients is they'll test themselves, but they won't even know what they're missing. And that's to make sure that you're not flipped or you're not seeing yourself incorrectly. When you know you're seeing yourself correctly, you can get real good, reliable data. With that being said, when would we use it? We can use it when we are doing things like figuring out, is this emotion something causing a problem for me? So that'd be applicable for your field. Is this product that I'm going to eat good for me? Is my child lying to me? Parents can actually use it. It actually works. Is this decision I'm making going to be positive or negative for me? So when you're on the fence, it's a good way to help, but understand if you're testing yourself, it can fluctuate. So you need that surrogate that is not emotionally charged. If you're in a fight with your spouse, that's the worst time to do a muscle test. They're going to literally make sure everything you want is not going to happen. They can interfere. So when we look at muscle testing, there are two kinds of muscle testing. There's muscle testing through applied kinesiology, which we're asking questions about food, we're asking questions about emotions, we're asking questions about things that we might not know about. There's also muscle testing that a doctor will do to see if the muscle actually works. So you'll notice that when I test you guys and I'm like, move your leg as high as you can in the air, that's actually a muscle test. And when I push down, it lets me know, does the joint actually lock? Can the muscle do its job or not? What are things that can interfere with that, though, is the joint damaged? Do you have joint inflammation? That can interfere with it. Do we have ligaments that are injured or damaged? That can interfere with it. Do we have trauma to the muscle? That can interfere with it. Other things that can interfere with how well the muscle testing is working is, are the meridians actually clear? And with patients, you may notice this, I will test the muscle, it'll be weak, and then I'll figure out, is it emotional, or is it emotional meridian, or is it something like dehydration? 9 times out of 10, I go right to emotional because we've already cleared most of those other things. If the emotion doesn't clear, then it lets me know it's probably nutrition. But if the emotion clears it, the muscle gets strong, it tells me it's an underlying emotional thing that we're working through. The one that is chronic, that chiropractors and medical practitioners see all the time, is the sex meridian is inhibited. What does that show up as? That shows up as weak glutes, and that will show up as low back pain, hip pain, or knee pain. So low back pain, hip pain, or knee pain person comes in, I'm literally going, we are inhibiting an emotion or a thought, and that's what's causing the issue. That's my first idea. If they don't clear up with a simple assessment where we look at them and go, neurologically, you're clear. Why would that show up? The sex meridian, which is the gonads, it's correlated to the muscles of the glutes, specifically glute medius and minimus. And those are the muscles in your hips that actually make your hip joint attached to your pelvis. So if they're weak, it won't move correctly, and then your body will actually straighten up, and that will cause low back pain. And then if you work into it enough, you'll go crooked, and then it'll cause hip pain and knee pain. Because the pain is coming from the joint taking the pressure. So once you strengthen the muscles, then the stability will come back. So if we test you and go, oh, I'll push on the meridian for the sex meridian point, which is on the inside nail point of the middle finger, and the muscle gets strong, it's telling me you have an emotional or cognitive problem. Then we can look at the physical stuff, but if that isn't clear, you won't get a good answer either. So the goal, whenever you're doing muscle testing, is to make sure the surrogate or yourself is getting real answers. And you're not getting backward answers. What do I mean by that? You have to ask simple yes or no questions. If you don't ask this, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because yes can be no and no can be yes, and we'll quite see this quite often. Have any of you experienced that before? Yes? Okay. A couple. So when we look at this, we need to understand what is happening here. We got brain. No laughing. I'm definitely not an artist. We got elbow, and then we're going to have muscle between it, okay? Brain communicates down, muscle communicates back up, and we get this loop. So how does this work? If the brain motor cortex is working correctly, then muscles will work correctly. If, on the other hand, you have a child or a person that has a dysfunctional motor cortex, that would be CZ if we train CZ on you, or cerebellum when we train cerebellum, then the muscles won't work correctly. So if the brain can't give the right signal, the body won't get the right result. What does this show up as? Well, doc, when you tested me, my foot went out. Yeah, that's because your brain is weak on that side on the motor cortex. So if your feet are flared out, that's literally motor cortex cerebellum telling me what's going on. So if that's working, we can move forward. If I know it's working because I've adjusted you and we started to stabilize you, we know you're getting better. So what tells me you're healing? When your feet start straightening out. If your feet are literally straight when you lay down, it tells me motor cortex is better, stable. You go, but what about the fact that I have a friend and her foot goes in like this? That tells me that that person has CP and a mild form of it. That means trauma in utero that lead to brain development not working correctly. So those pigeon-toed people are going to be really, really powerful because they're stuck in sympathetic tone or fight or flight response because they were traumatized in utero. And if you watch, all basketball players that play pro have no flexibility. They cannot touch their toes, but they can jump really, really high. And that's because they're in sympathetic tone. They're in distress, fight or flight response. The better the player, the more the toes go in because they're more springy, they're more fight or flight. And you can start looking at it, you're like, oh, wow, they all just walk pigeon-toed. And you'll see it in basketball players, and you usually see it in gymnasts as well. So that's a neurological indicator that you'll see. But that's why you'll see, and you'll hear about later on in life, once the sports are gone to stabilize the motor cortex, they start falling apart because now they start self-medicating to try to calm themselves down. And that's when you'll start hearing about all the weird stuff, the drugs or the car accidents or the multiple children or whatever it turns into. But if we can get the motor cortex stable, then we can make sure the body's adaptive correctly. Does it make sense?
Can
So-
they still be good athletes if?
Oh yeah, no, they're going to be very good athletes, just not flexible athletes. So you're going to see them be extremely powerful because they're going to be unreal athletes, but they're unreal because they're stuck in fight or flight. So they're literally burning their body out, overusing the fight or flight and not calming down.
But if you get them out of fight or flight and get them more balanced, can they still be good athletes?
You don't want to do that when they're playing pro because their ability will decrease. So you're going to want to help them modify their stress response. You're not going to want to pull them completely out of fight or flight because if you do, they're going to get really angry at you because their reaction time goes down. All their things are going down. Good for short periods of time, but long period of time, years, you get major issues. Sure. So, yeah, the answer is you're going to want to help stabilize them, but you're going to stabilize like their cerebellum and not going to want to try to stabilize the motor cortex as much because you're going to see their ability to produce go down. So there's that yin and yang thing that you want to do. With the general public, though, what you do is you make that part of the brain stabilize and their motor ability goes up. And you can tell with who you're dealing with. So if the athlete comes in and they got the flared feet, train that motor cortex on and they're going to get better. Athlete comes in and they're pigeon-toed, now I know I'm dealing with a severely stressed body because their brainstem is not stable. And that's because of the trauma in utero. And that you go, well, what could be the trauma? Literally, their mom could be taking a drug, like an antidepressant. What's the other thing in utero that could happen? Alcohol. What's the other thing in utero? A fight that happened between mom and dad, screaming, yelling. They've shown that the child is reactive in utero. They'll actually go into the fight or flight response just by hearing the fight. They'll go right into fight or flight. They'll go into moro, and then they'll cortisol pump and everything will happen, and the brain will actually bypass stages. And that's why when we test you guys, we test the stages of development. That's what the brushing is one of the steps. And then the turning the head side to side is another step. These are telling me how the brain is developing. We're doing good so far? Okay, excellent. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of what this looks like. Number one, we need to ask at least 3 questions to make sure the person that we're using or ourselves is giving good answers. So What kind of questions are we going to ask? Real black and white ones. Now, in this day and age, they might not be as black and white anymore, but we need to know black and white answers. So simple ones like, I am a male. For me, should be strong. And I say, I am a female, should go weak. Next question, yes or no? Just literally say yes, muscle should be strong. No, muscle should be weak. And then the next one is say your name. My name is Josh, strong. My name is Laura, weak. If any of those are not on point, you are flipped. And what I mean by that is your body sees itself as a hologram. And if you become really stressed to not deal with the reality it's dealing with, your body will actually flip itself to inadvertently not make you deal with the stress that you're dealing with. So you don't see everything correctly. You get fuzzy. Just like how when you get really, really stressed, the brain will actually slow down the middle part so you don't have to see everything that's happening. It'll suppress your memory, suppress your processing speed. So you don't have to deal with whatever you're dealing with. That's okay for a short period of time, but long periods of time, that's when it shows up as problems. So what are different ways that we can do the muscle testing? The one I like the most, if I'm testing myself, is the fingers. Fingers together, and I pull. Yes, no, good results. Your key is to pull at the same power on both of them. If you really, really want to buy that house, don't try to overdo it. Because it'll help with those decisions. So that's the one I love to do. Another one you can do is with your finger. I used this when I was taking tests and I didn't know what the answer was. I would literally go through, and this is another way you can do it, is the answer. I'd read the thing, is it A, is it B, is it C, and whatever one was strong,
Wow.
and I get it right about 70% of the time.
Right.
So whatever is in there, it'll help. Those are ways to use it. The other way that is able to use is if you do like a big muscle group like the shoulder. I do not recommend this though, because it fatigues very quickly. So I recommend using your hands because they do not fatigue as quickly. And I recommend asking the question multiple times and not saying it out loud so the person that you're asking actually knows what's going on. So with that being said, what would that look like? Do you ladies want to be a volunteer? Okay. The beautiful Brooke is our volunteer today. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by testing her. So we're going to say, okay, say yes, Brooke.
Yes.
Hold strong. So that was a little weak, but that might just be her power, right? So if we're not sure about that, go, just hold strong. Hold strong. Okay, so that was strong. So that tells me we probably got an issue going on here. So say no.
No.
Hold strong. So right now, she's stronger on a no and weaker on a yes. This tells me she's not seeing reality correctly and we're getting a backward answer. So then what you're going to do is you're going to hit the K22 point, which is right up here, right in the middle of the collarbone, and you're going to tap right there, and that resets 10 of the 11 meridians. Wow. So you're going to hit this point, and we're going to see if it works. I feel like just for fun and giggles, she's going to make it harder for me. And I'm going to have to do the other one. Say yes.
Yes.
Still weak. Say, my name is Brooke.
My name is Brooke.
Hold strong. Yeah, so it's still weak. So then what we need to do you guys ever notice that sometimes I have you put your finger in your belly button, your hand right on those 22 points and the tongue on the top? You do that, and then you tap on the middle of the skull on top, and this will reset all of them. It's a little more invasive, so it takes a little more time. So you need somebody else to help you, or you can just breathe through it. Okay? Now, hold strong. Good. Say yes.
Yes.
Now we're strong. So she's strong. We had to use 2 of the balancing methods. We know we got a positive yes, but that doesn't mean we're going to get a correct no. She could still be screwed up and showing us strong, strong, or weak, weak. So it's not always just weak that's the problem. It could be strong, strong. Say no.
No.
Okay. So no is weak. Say yes.
Yes.
Yes is strong. Good. We got one of the questions done. perfect that we asked her. She's showing us all the ways to balance out when we get issues. Now we have her say her name. Say, my name is.
My name is Brooke.
Hold strong. Good. And I'm pulling always at the exact same power. Never more. Oh, I really want to get. No, never. That's not how it works. It's always the same. Now say, my name is Josh.
My name is Josh.
Hold strong. And it should go weak. How this works is the subconscious, if it tells a lie, will make your muscles actually weaker. So that's what we're actually seeing here. Subconsciously, her frontal lobe is saying, no, that's not a lie, or that's not correct, that's a lie. Cerebellum inhibits, and then contractility decreases. So you're not as strong. Now, we can do one other one. Where were you born?
Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Okay, say, I was born in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
I was born in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Hold strong. Good, so that's strong. Say, I was born in Canada.
I was born in Canada.
Hold strong. Okay, so we tested, we're all good. Now we're strong. We know we have a good surrogate. Now we ask questions. Now we can do food and go, okay, this is pure peppermint. Let's see if she's okay with it. You like using this if we're trying to do a simple test at like the grocery store or something like that to see if it's okay for you. If you really want to know if you have a problem, you have to do a blood test. You cannot use muscle testing to definitively know if you're allergic to something because it will fluctuate based on your emotions of that day. If you're carrying your cell phone around, it can mess with it. If you have a cold, it can mess with it. It can mess with multiple things. If you're stressed out, it can mess with it. So if you definitively want to know if you have something you can't eat, this is a nice little way to try it, but get the blood test, see the antibodies, then you know. Make sense? We still use it with foods, but it's a nice quick cheat, but do not use it as gospel truth. Okay, when you test food or any product, you always have to put it up to your heart. If you do not, you will not get the right energy frequency throughout the body. So take the hand, put it up to the heart. So we're going to go left hand. So it's actually going to go over to the side. The heart is actually off center. It's actually ribs and to the side. So then we just ask simple questions. Is this good for Brooke? Hold strong. Yeah, it's fine. Should she drink 2 cups of this a day? Hold strong. No, 1 cup a day. Hold strong. Yeah, 1's fine for her. So we can use it to figure out dosages as well. Now, I hear this all the time. Doc, it's organic, so it's good for me. Organic arsenic is still arsenic.
Yeah.
So this is organic, grass-fed, whatever you want to say, it's still sugar. Okay? Sugar is still inflammatory even if it doesn't have chemicals in it. It's still sugar. So take this, put it up against, hold strong. Is this good for Brooke? Hold strong. Not even close. Not even close. And I know she wanted to hold that strong because she loves her candy. So that's an example of how we, thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
So that's an example of how we can use it for food. But we can also use it for other things like, is this relationship positive for me? Should I choose between these 2 things? You always need black or white. So if you're going to do it and you're going to try to choose between, let's say, multiple houses, you're saying, I'm going to buy one of these 10 houses, split them into 2 groups, A or B. Is the house I'm supposed to buy an A or B? If it's A, then you split it into 2 groups again, and you keep cutting it down until you get to the one you need. And use it. If you're going to make a big decision like that, if you have time, do it multiple times over multiple days. Do not make the decision really quickly on one thing unless you're under a time crunch, which can be with houses. But try to use it multiple times to make sure it's not something that you've been eating, not something where it can be affected where most people aren't aware. Say you're under a high power line, literally the electricity can affect you when you're doing the test. Say you eat something that isn't the best for you, can do that. Say you are emotionally thinking about something, it can change what's going on. So you want to understand the things that can interfere with the muscle testing. So if you're making a major decision, what I recommend is using multiple surrogates and using the surrogate to get the answer and not yourself. Because you're going to be biased to the thing you want. And sometimes the surrogate tells you the actual answer that you need. Almost 99% of the time it does, if it's a good surrogate. So, do we have any questions so far?
Would you suggest that, like, if I'm using a surrogate, instead of me asking the questions, I tell them what the questions are and they.
No, because then they know what it is. You're going to say it and you're just going to think it.
Okay, okay,
So you're just
Gotcha.
going to think the question
gotcha.
and you go, okay, this is what it is. If you really want to get double blind, don't even know what it is, write the question down, have the surrogate hold it, and then ask it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Then you don't even know what it is.
Mm. Mm.
Yes, okay, it was 3 no's, so definitely no. So that was a no, and then you can do it that way. The best way is for neither of you to know what's going on.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Because in that method, it's literally just you communicating to God, you communicating to innate, and knowing externally what's going on.
So you write down like maybe 10 questions, fold them up, and then pick them blindly out of a hat.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And then when you do it, you're gonna get the answers because you have no you have vested interest, but you have no clue what you're actually asking. Then you're gonna get the raw data. You're gonna get what you need. And you can do that multiple times. Any other questions? Have we learned anything new tonight about things that we can take home and how to use them?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes.
Even you, sir?
No, I don't.
So what we use this for is when we're trying to make a decision and we're not quite sure. That's when I usually use it. You can use it to see if pharmaceuticals are bad for you. You can use it to see if food is bad for you. You can use it for emotional stability. You can use it to see if stress from certain thoughts or emotions are causing it. So is anger what's causing me to get sick? Is grief? Is pain? What is it? And you can start going through the things that you think it is. And then you can start figuring out which one it is. But make sure you always have somebody who's cleared. Because the other thing that will show up is that if you're testing a muscle and that muscle's organ is weak, the meridian will cause it to be weak and you won't actually be strong. So like, say we were testing somebody who has a suppressed emotion and we were using the glute muscle to test it, we wouldn't get good data because it would not be a strong muscle group. The other application that's used for AK is to find a strong muscle group, make it weak. That's telling you what the issue is, or find a weak muscle group and make it strong, and that's telling you how to fix it. So you can use it both ways. And it can be emotional, it can be cognitive, it can be whatever chemical, it can be different facets to see what it is. All right, so I hope all of you have something that you've taken away from this. My goal is for you to be able to have another tool in your tool belt to be able to make decisions and choices about maybe food or about which car I'm going to buy or whatever you're looking at. And what you're doing is you're actually talking to your subconscious. So you're talking to, in my world, you're talking to the Holy Spirit and having him talk back to you. That's how I look at it. But using this is a way to help you make decisions. And it's not about you getting the answer. If you really want to do it where it's double blind, write it down, put it on paper, and you have no clue. You can't have just one question. Because then you'll already know what you're asking. You have to have multiples. With that being said, teach somebody this, teach a friend or family member this. It's really fun. If you want to do a really cool one, can I use it again as a guinea pig, Brooke?
Mm-hmm.
This is a fun one. You can use this just for a fun party trick for all your friends. So find the biggest muscular friend you have, and you can use this to actually prove to them that neurology does affect how strong they are. So what you do and what we found out, and martial arts have shown this, is that if you push towards the body, it will strengthen. If you pull away, it will actually weaken. So what you can do is you go, cool, show me how strong you are. And you just push down and they go, oh yeah, look at how strong I am. I go, cool, watch this. And then you just push down and then they get really, really weak. and then it'll reset, hold strong. But right at that time, so that's why if you watch martial artists, so go into like a stance, they'll come in and they'll go like this and get back
Oh my
and then
God.
come at you because they're actually pulling your neurology to put you weak so that they can strike after you. So that's why you see them touch you and go away. And you're like, oh, that was nothing. Well, if you want it to be nothing, you got to shake it off. So this is a cool little party trick you can use your friends. It's just showing you the neurology of proprioception, how the body will react. That's the same thing we're doing with muscle testing, is we're using just a chemical or emotional trigger to show us how strong or weak you are. And that gives you an easy way to determine yes or no's. So I want to thank you all for being here. Show a friend or a family member, and have a good day.